came to him privately. Tell us, they said, what will be the sign of the end of the age? Ever since Jesus came the first time, it seems like we wanted to know, when are you coming back? When's the second time coming? I read this statement that said, the earth is degenerating today. Bribery and corruption abound. Children no longer obey their parents. Every man wants to write a book, and it is evident that the end of the world is fast approaching. Does that sound true? This was found on an Assyrian tablet in 2800 BC. Yeah? We keep thinking, everyone wants to know, when is the world ending? When is it coming to an end? When is it going to end? When will Jesus return? In Luke 21, Jesus said, I tell you the truth. This generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Now, Hal Lindsey looked at that statement, and he said a generation is 40 years. So he came up with this theory that in 1948, Israel became a nation again. A generation is 40 years, so he said 1948 plus 40. This world was going to end in 1988. It would all be over. He said that the decade of the 1980s could very well be the last decade of history as we know it. The U.S. could be destroyed by a surprise Soviet nuclear attack. And here, we're still here. And then in 1982, along with that, was what was known as the Jupiter effect. Supposedly, in 1982, all the planets were to line up with one another, and this gravitational pull from all of these planets coming in alignment was going to bring these huge firestorms. We'd lose all radio and TV communications. The wind patterns would change. There'd be these massive earthquakes. It was called the apocalyptic prediction. So the world was going to end in 1982. We're still here. Remember Y2K? You know, all the computers we're switching over to the year 2000, and the computers can't make that switch, so everyone's going to lose all their finances, and all the computers were going to crash, and it'd just be the end of the world. And about all it did was stole a lot of computer programs. That's about all it did. 2000 came, and the world kept right on going. And then I picked up this book called The Bible Code. And suppose they had this code by the computer, they'd go through and they'd take like every fourth letter in the Bible, and it would give you a prediction of what's going to happen. Or they'd take like every 10th letter and they'd put that all together and read prophecy from this. And they said that the more closely we looked at the warnings in the Bible code, the clearer it became that the ultimate danger centered on 2006. That is the year most clearly encoded with atomic holocaust and world war, and also with the end of day. So it predicted the world was going to end in 2006. Well, it's 2017. We're still here. And then there was the Mayan calendar. The calendar ended in 2012. So everyone knew December 21st, 2012, the end of the Mayan calendar was going to mark the end of this world as we know it. We are, over 4 years later. And then there was this present prediction that biological warfare was going to destroy all humans in 2016. So that didn't happen. I've almost got to the place I take Lucy's theory. I don't worry about the world coming to an end anymore. And so the way I figure it, the world can't come to an end today because it is already tomorrow in some other part of the world. Isn't that a comforting theory? Charlie Brown says, I've never felt so comforted in all my life. But if we look around our world and we see the global warming, the crime, the warfare, disasters, immorality, we know everybody that something is wrong. Something is just not right with this world that we live in. Is this the end of the world as we know it? Is it coming to an end? And as Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. Tell us, they said, when will this happen? What will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? They want to know, when is this going to end? Tell us, when will you establish your kingdom? And Jesus said, no one knows about that day or hour, not even the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. I cannot stand here tonight and tell you exact day, hour, year, month that Jesus Christ is going to return. He has said that is not for us to know. It's probably a wise thing we don't know. And that's not for us. Only His Father knows that, He tells us. But He did go on to say, now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door. So just as we can look at nature, you know, fall comes, the leaves change color, the leaves start falling off, we know winter's here. And then when the spring comes and we see the buds starting to appear and the leaves starting to come back on the trees, we know it's almost summer. So Jesus says, just as you can look out and you can look at nature and tell what season is coming, in the same way, He says, I am going to give you signs. And you look for these signs, and through these signs you can know when my coming is close at hand. So what we're going to do in this presentation, we're going to look at the signs of the second coming to see how near is it for Jesus Christ to return to this world. Sign number one, Jesus said to look for, was war and rumors of war. Look for war and rumors of war. Tells us, you will hear of wars and rumors of wars in Matthew 24. He says, nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. 167,000 people die every year in wars and conflicts around this world. Every year that goes by, this many is. This is where wars are raging today. All around our world, war is taking place. These are a number of countries involved in war. Africa has 29 countries in war. Asia has 16. Europe has 10. Middle East has 7. America, 6 countries. America has 6 countries. 67 countries are involved in war. Plus another 746 militia, guerrilla, and terrorist separatist anarchy groups are involved in war, taking place all around this world, just as Jesus said would be happening. U.S. military spending has grown more than 80% over the last decade. So over the last 10 years, we've increased our military spending by 80%. We spend much more for our military than any other nation on this earth. Far above any other nation on this earth. Most of our budget here in America is on military spending. Preparing for war and going around the world fighting wars. The next sign we're to look for, Jesus said, you look for fear. There will be great fear upon this world. And we do live in a world of fear. Yet the Bible says, men's hearts will be filling them from fear and the expectation of those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven will be shaken. So there will be fear all around us. And as I said, since 9/11, we live in a world of fear. We are afraid of what is coming upon us and what is going to happen. We're afraid to go to school, you could get shot. You're afraid to go to a theater, you could get shot. You're afraid to go to work, you could get shot. You don't dare blow your horn at someone on the freeway, they might pull up beside you and shoot. I mean, we live in a world of fear. We're afraid of what's going to happen to us. And when our loved ones leave, will we see them again? Suicide attacks are at a high, all-time high. Suicide attacks have killed more people in 2016 than any other year on record. 5,650 people died worldwide. There were 800 perpetrators, 469 attacks in 28 countries. And that's just last year that took place. And while the majority of the world's 1.5 billion Muslims want no part of this deadly violence and attempt to live at peace with their neighbors, the number of radicals who preach violence and terror is mushrooming around the world. Experts say that 15 to 20% of Muslims are radical enough to strap a bomb on their bodies in order to kill Christians and Jews. 15 to 20%. But look how that interprets. If this number is accurate, it means about 300 million Muslims are willing to die in order to take you and me down. All around this world. I mean, that can drive you to fear by itself. You know, they're willing to blow themselves up, and as many as they can with them. On 9/11, there was only a handful of jihadist sites on the internet. Today, there are thousands. The purpose of the media jihad is both to recruit new members, indoctrinating them and instructing them in the means of violence, and to keep the enemy in a state of perpetual alarm. They want us afraid. And they do this to keep us afraid and living in fear. Fatalities due to terrorist attacks, you can see it's growing. You know, it keeps going up every year. And we live under this fear of nuclear threat. You know, it's these other nations are experimenting and trying to get nuclear weapons of their own. In 1999, the U.S. Commission on National Security concluded that America will be attacked by terrorists using weapons of mass destruction, and Americans will die on American soil, possibly in large numbers. They said it wasn't if it's going to happen, it's just a matter of when is this going to take place. If a nuclear bomb was dropped in Seattle, here's what they believe will happen. A third of a mile radius will vaporize immediately. 50,000 will die as soon as it strikes, immediately. Another 50,000 will die in a few hours, and radiation will be lethal up to 10 miles away for a month. And that's just in Seattle if a nuclear bomb was to be dropped here. And nuclear weapons are great equalizers for underdog nations, and a terrorist with a bomb would have nothing to lose. Treaties aimed at preventing the spread of nuclear technology are all well and good, but ultimately they can only slow, not stop, nuclear proliferation. You know, some of these small countries get their hands on a nuclear weapon. They're not afraid to use it. And they will use it if they get the chance. Which leads to sign number 3, which is peace talks. They're trying to bring peace to this world. Peace talks. 1 Thessalonians 5 teaches, while people are saying peace and safety, destruction will come on them suddenly as labor pains on a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. So we're saying peace and safety, but the Bible says it's not going to happen. Here's the current United Nations peacekeeping operations taking place around this world. This many trying to bring peace to our world. The United Nations peacekeeping budget is $7.87 billion. That was just passed recently for this new year. $7.87 billion. Trying to somehow bring peace to our world. But like Doc Hammarskjöld said, who was once leader of the United Nations, he said, I see no hope for world peace. We have tried so hard and we have failed so miserably. He said he just could not see it coming. And we look around the world, we can't see it coming. Sign number 4, Jesus said to look for famine. Famine would be taking place. Matthew 24:7, Jesus said there will be famines in various places. 3 billion acres of productive land have been damaged by human activity since 1945. Now, if you damage 3 billion acres of productive land, how are you going to feed people? Where are you going to grow your crops if you're destroying the land around us? 805 million people, 1 in 9, suffer from chronic undernourishment. Another 936 million do not get enough to eat. They go to bed hungry every night in this world. 3.1 million children die annually from undernutrition. And small children, they don't deserve this. 161 million under the age of 5 have stunted growth due to undernutrition. They just don't have enough to eat. You know, we're destroying the land that grows the crops. 33% of the world population is starving today. Someone dies from hunger every 3.6 seconds in this world. That means 20,864 people will die of hunger today. That's just one day will take place. And we think, well, that's, other countries. We're facing that here in America. 11% of U.S. households are at risk of hunger. 48.1 million live in food insecure households. schools are having to serve breakfast so the children will have something to eat. They're coming to school hungry. Their parents don't have enough to feed them with. And by the year 2050, this Earth's population will be 9.5 billion. By 2120, it will be 12 billion. So as we're destroying the land and the population is increasing, famine is just going to continually get worse and worse. It's not going to get better. Next, there will be earthquakes. Sign number 5, earthquakes. Jesus said to look for. There will be earthquakes in various places, we are told. Worldwide earthquakes in the last 10 years, 4.0 and higher, there were 142,612 in 1 year, in 10-year period. Earthquakes are happening constantly. In Italy in August last year, there was a 6.2, 247 deaths from that earthquake. Myanmar, August of 2016, a 6.8. 3 deaths, but it destroyed 170 temples from that earthquake. Here's the average number of earthquakes each year by magnitude. Now notice some of them are small, 2 to 2.9. You barely feel that. But there's 1.3 million of those. And then you go down to these large ones, 8 to 8.9. One of those are happening every year. Here's the number of earthquakes, 4.0 and higher in 2016. I mean, in January, over 1,100 earthquakes took place, over 4.0. In March, 1,094. April, over 1,400. July, over 1,100. August, 1,300. I mean, you're up over 1,000 in most months of every year. These earthquakes are taking place. And it's getting worse. It is not getting better. You can see it just steadily increasing year after year after year. So Jesus said there's going to be many earthquakes in various places, and we're seeing that happening around us. Next, he said, sign number 6, there would be pestilence taking place. Pestilence around our world. Sign number 6, pestilence. There will be pestilences in various places. Now, pestilence isn't just a disease. A pestilence is a strange disease which afflicts human beings, crops, and the environment. So, it's widespread over many things. Toxic pollution affects 200 million people worldwide. So all around this world, 200 million people are being affected by toxins. Air pollution causes the deaths of 7 million people worldwide. So, just the air we breathe is causing deaths. 1.8 billion people worldwide drink contaminated water, leading to 871,000 deaths. 2.5 billion do not have access to adequate sanitation. They just don't have clean water. My wife and I have seen this. We traveled to Africa, and here were little children are bathing in mud puddles, and scooping up mud puddles and bringing the water back, and that's what they're drinking. And in the United States, 44% of stream miles, 64% of our lakes, 30% of our bay and estuarine are not clean enough for fishing and swimming. They're polluted. People aren't even supposed to go near this much water in our country. And another form of pestilences are the new diseases that are springing up around the world. There's these diseases rising now in our world that all our antibiotics do not have any effect on. More and more strains of bacteria are developing countermeasures to antibiotics, cell membranes that won't let them in, tiny pumps that push them back out, biochemical tweaks that make them harmless. So there's these new diseases now rising on the scene that we don't have any defense against. All our antibiotics, nothing is working. There are new strains that are coming out of diseases. Antibiotic resistance is a quickly growing, extremely dangerous problem. World health leaders have described antibiotic resistance bacteria as nightmare bacteria that pose a catastrophic threat to people in every country in the world. So everyone is being affected by this. Each year in the United States, so just this country, at least 2 million people become infected with bacteria that are resistant to antibiotics, and at least 23,000 people die each year as a direct result of these infections. That we don't know what we're going to do about it. We have no defense. We cannot fight them. Since AIDS was first recognized in 1981, it has led to the deaths of more than 25 million people, making it one of the most destructive diseases in recorded history. In 2015, 36.7 million people were living with AIDS. 1.1 million deaths, 2.1 million new infections in that year alone, 5,700 new infections per day in 2015. Wife and I were in Kenya doing these type of meetings. And the guy was driving us, and he pointed to an area in Kenya, and he said, now, over there is Tin Alley. I'm not going to take you there. That's where people with AIDS live. He said 1,000 people die there a day. I said, oh, you mean 1,000 a year? No. I said, you mean 1,000 a month? He said, no, 1,000 a day die in that area. That's why I'm not taking you over there. So they're living in these tin huts, and 1,000 die. I said, what do you do with 1,000 people a day? He said, we just big trenches and cover them up. You know, we can't bury all those people. And 1,000 a day were dying from it. In the United States, the adult prevalence rate is over 1 million people currently infected with HIV. Currently, 35,000 to 40,000 new infections occur in the USA every year. So that's just our country. Jesus said there will be pestilences. We have some that we think is wiped out, but not everywhere. Malaria. Half the world's population is at risk. 214 million new cases every year, leading to 438,000 deaths. Tuberculosis. There's 9.6 million cases every year, leading to 1.5 million deaths from that disease. In 2014, there was the Ebola virus we were all worried about. Was it coming? To 9,000 cases, 4,500 deaths from this. We get past that one, and it's the Zika virus. 1.5 million cases worldwide, over 3,300 cases just here in the United States. You know, these diseases are spreading. Jesus said there would be pestilence all over the world. Sign number 7, upheaval of nature. Upheaval of nature. He said in Luke 21, there will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences, which we have seen in various places, and fearful of disasters have risen by 44%. And they're going up year after year. Every month, something is happening with some disaster in nature, some natural disaster. In August of last year, a deadly storm in Macedonia, mudslides in Mexico, wildfires in California and France, floods in Louisiana, earthquakes in Italy, Bangkok and Delhi, typhoon in Vietnam. That was just August. We're just going to go back 6 months. September, there were floods in Wales, hailstorm in Samoa, typhoon in China, earthquake in Tanzania. October, there's an earthquake in Italy and Japan, floods in Egypt, typhoon in Philippines, a hurricane in Haiti. November, earthquake triggers a tsunami in Japan. There are floods in Indonesia, South Africa, and Haiti, and there's a tornado in Rome. December, there was flooding in Vietnam and Spain, and there was a cyclone in India. January of this year, there was a cold wave in India where it got down to 7 degrees. In India, of all places. An avalanche in Kashmir, 7.9 earthquake in New Guinea, 70 tornadoes strike southern United States. Heard about that on the news. In February, there's been floods in California, floods in Britain, extreme heat in Australia of 111 degrees. So India's down to 7, Australia's up to 111, and an avalanche in France and Afghanistan. March, a cyclone Debbie hit Queensland, causing millions of dollars worth of damage. You know, not a month goes by, there's not some natural disaster somewhere. In April, there was mudslides in Colombia and floods in New Zealand. It happens one right after you. It's hard to even keep up with it. 2016 in the United States will be a record for the most billion-dollar weather disasters. last year. More than any other before. And it's increasing. It'll probably be more this year. Sign number 8, moral decay. Moral decay. We see that every time we turn on the news now. The Bible says there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power, have nothing to do with them. So the Bible says that's the way it's going to be. People will be living in the final days. Since 1960, violent crime has increased 560%. Teen suicides have increased 200%, while the average SAT score has dropped 80% during this time. So crime is on the rise. 23% of college women experience some form of unwanted sexual contact. Being raped during, and not wanting it. Students spend $5.5 billion on alcohol every year. That's a lot of drinking going on among college students, isn't it? High school students. It's 95% of violent crimes on campus is alcohol or drug related. 95, that's almost all of it. Is alcohol and drugs is behind this. 73% of the assailants and 55% of the victims of rape had used alcohol or other drugs. So they're not in their right mind while they're doing this. And God said that in the last days they will be lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. In the world, Christian worldwide have give about $370 billion to Christian causes worldwide. Now you look at that figure and you think, well, that's a lot of money. Christians are doing pretty good. Christians are giving $370 billion to Christian causes. But then you start comparing that with what else we spend our money on in this world. In the United States alone, Americans spend $25.4 billion per year on professional sports. So how much do the Christians take in? $370 billion. Remember that figure. So we spend $25.4 billion on sports. In America, it's just this country, the amount spent on gambling has risen in 20 years from $17 billion to $482 billion, or 2,800%. In the last 20 years. So Christians are taking in $370 billion. We're spending $482 billion just on gambling. Gambling generates more revenue than movies, spectator sports, theme parks, cruise ships, and recorded music combined. Can you imagine that? What we're spending? Americans spend $10 trillion on shopping. Here's some of the ways it breaks down. We spend $96 billion every year on beer. $50.9 billion on our pets. $16 billion on chocolate. $10 billion on romance novels. $65 billion on soft drinks. $17 billion on video games. $5 billion just on ringtones for our phones. And most people must golf like I do because we're spending $500 million a year on golf balls. Yeah. The Christians are taking in $370 billion. We're spending $10.7 trillion just shopping. Lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. Sign number 9, violence. Look for violence to take place. The Bible says, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. This is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. So Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah, so it's going to be just before he comes again. So you go back in Genesis, it says, well, what was it like in the days of Noah? It says, now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. So it's full of violence in the days of Noah. And Jesus said that's what will be repeated just before he comes back to this earth. U.S. crime rate in 2015. Look at this. Aggravated assaults, over 723,000 in 1 year. There were over 2 million burglaries. Almost 80,000 rapes. Larceny and theft, 5 million. Motor vehicle theft, over 433,000. Almost 14,000 from murder and manslaughter died. 349,000 robberies. 8.3 million property crimes. And violent crime, 1,165,907. That was in 1 year, just in this country alone, the United States. In 2016, you heard about it on the news with Chicago, 3,550 shootings, 762 murders, averaging 10 shootings and 2 murders per day. The news said that the murders taking place in 2016 in Chicago were more than Los Angeles and New York combined, happening in this one city, taking place. Stockholm, Sweden, we just saw in April just happened where a man drives his truck into a crowd, killing 4 people, 15 are injured. I mean, I did not grow up thinking that people would use cars as weapons. And now we're seeing it around us. And then Palm Sunday, bombings in Egypt. Here Christians are meeting together. Someone sets off a bomb. ISIS claims to be behind it. 21 deaths, 50 people injured because they gathered to celebrate Jesus' death and resurrection, preparing for Easter. It's all around us. 2016, there were 1,807 terrorist attacks around our world, 15,937 fatalities. People killing other people, killing themselves along with them. Homicide is the leading cause of death, ages 5 to 18. 13 per day between 5 and 18 are being murdered. Parents talk to their children about 3.5 minutes per week. Children watch an average television 1,680 minutes per week. So who's raising our children today? So children watch 8,000 murders by the time they finish elementary school. Spending much more time in front of the TV than they are with their parents. 1 in 6 youths between the ages of 10 and 17 has seen or knows someone who has been shot. When I was between the age of 10 and 17, I didn't know anyone who had been shot. But now, 1 in 6 knows somebody who has been shot. Children under 18 are 244% more likely to be killed by guns than they were in 1986. Violence is on the rise. About 1,400 women are killed by their husbands, ex-husbands, and boyfriends each year, and about 2 million are beaten on the average 1 every 16 seconds taking place. So we're facing murder, we're facing domestic violence in our homes. At least 1.8 million women are battered every year. Some form of violence occurs in 25% of all marriages. That's 1 in every 4. There's some form of violence. 20% of women seeking emergency surgical procedures are victims of domestic violence. That's 1 in every 5. Some kind of violence taking place in their homes. More than 2 million cases of child abuse are reported every year. More than 1,200 children die each year through child abuse and neglect. Children who do not deserve this. Innocent children, this is happening to. And it's not going to get better. The Bible said, because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. It's just going to continue to increase one after another. Sign number 10 would be economic uncertainty. Economic uncertainty. Will our paycheck be enough? Will we make it from 1 month to the next month? The Bible says, listen, you rich people. Weep and wail because of the misery that is coming upon you. Your wealth has rotted, and moths have eaten your clothes. Your gold and silver are corroded. Their corrosion will testify against you and eat your flesh like fire. You have hoarded wealth in the last days. Look, the wages you failed to pay the workmen who mowed your fields are crying out against you. The cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord Almighty. So the days we're living in is economic uncertainty. Our national debt is, well, this figure, I can't type it fast enough to keep up with how fast it's going up. You go online, you can look this up, and it's just spinning. You cannot keep up with $19 trillion. You know, U.S. population, 323 million, over 323 million people. That means each share of our debt, man, woman, and child, of each citizen, $61,469. That's how it breaks down to. The national debt has increased $2.37 billion per day since September 30 to 2012. It's hard to fathom what this figure is like. You know, 2.37 million, 19 trillion. It's hard to imagine. So here's the way you can think about it. 1 billion seconds ago, it was 1959. Seconds. 1 billion minutes ago, Jesus was alive. 1 trillion seconds is 1,688 years. If you had $1 trillion, you could spend $1 million a day for 2,740 years. I mean, you can't begin to fathom what is $19 trillion really like. And you start breaking it down. Regarding our economy, the federal government now has more debt than it did under the previous 42 presidents combined. More than any of them. 63,300 manufacturing facilities in the United States have been permanently shut down since 2001. And you see it all the time. These stores are empty, they've shut down, and now you hear about all these other stores that are in trouble. Kmart, Sears, Macy's, you know. Are they going to make it? Probably not. The home ownership rate in America is now at its lowest level in nearly 18 years. Well, less people are owning homes now. Among U.S. households headed by an adult younger than 35, 23% were in poverty in 2010. That's almost, what, 1 in 4 in poverty. The federal government runs 83 different welfare programs, and 108.2 million Americans are enrolled in at least one of them. That equals about 35% of the population in some kind of program. 49% of all Americans live in a home in which one or more residents receive monetary benefits from one or more government programs. So almost half the people live in America in some kind of program. The Social Security system is facing a $134 trillion shortfall over the next 75 years. The number of Americans on Social Security disability now exceeds the entire population of Greece, and the number of Americans on food stamps now exceeds the entire population of Spain. That's the economic situation we're finding here in our country. More than 1 million public school students in the United States are homeless. You know, it's hard to believe 1 million have no homes. 8.2%, or 10 million Americans, have no bank accounts of any kind. None. There will be economic uncertainty in the final days. Just before Jesus came, the greatest sign of all, worldwide evangelism. Worldwide evangelism. And this is happening. The Bible said, Jesus predicted, he prophesied, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. And it's being preached all over this world. 2.18 billion Christians in the world, representing 33% of the global population, claiming to be Christians. The number of Christians has quadrupled in the world over the last 100 years. And Christians in the United States and Canada, 75% claim to be Christians now in these two countries. So evangelism is spreading. We are spreading the good news of Jesus Christ. The Bible is translated into 554 languages. 2,932 languages have some portion of the Bible translated. I didn't even know there were that many languages, but they have some, Nehemiah's just a chapter or one book. 78.5 million Bibles are distributed every year around the world. It's still the biggest selling book of all. 400,000 Christian missionaries are sent out every year. Most of them from the United States. We're sending out 127,000 missionaries to spread the news of Christ throughout the world. 17% of the world's population is considered unreached by Christianity. And we're doing all we can to reach them and spread the good news of Jesus Christ. All of these signs that God gave to us is showing us the end is near. It is getting close for His second coming. But God tells us that evil men and imposters will go from bad to worse, deceiving and being deceived. God lets us know it's not going to get better. It's just going to continue to get worse and worse, and violence will increase, and famines will increase, and earthquakes will increase as things go from bad to worse. And in the last days, the Bible tells us, scoffers will come, scoffing and following their own evil desires. They will say, where is this coming He promised? Ever since our fathers died, everything goes on as it has since the beginning of creation. Many people will look at these signs and what is happening, and many will say something's wrong, but they'll say they don't believe it's the second coming or getting close to Jesus' return. The world's just going on as it always has. And God said that's exactly what will be taking place. But He tells us, therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have let his house be broken into. So you also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come in an hour when you do not expect Him. The Bible says keep watch. We don't know when He's coming, but He's given us signs to let us know when it is near. And everything is telling us it is near to the second coming of Jesus Christ. It says, remember therefore what you have received and heard. Obey it and repent. But if you do not wake up, I will come like a thief, and you will not know at what time I will come to you. We do not know when Jesus will return. But He did let us know and gave us signs to say to us, you'll know when it's near. You'll know when it's close at hand, so be ready. So Jesus said, whoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken him to a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain descended, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house. And it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. But everyone who hears these sayings of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rains descended, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it fell, and great was its fall. God has not given us these signs to scare us. He's given them as warnings, so we'll not be caught unaware. Meet Millard Fuller. Millard Fuller was quite the businessman. He earned his first $1 million before the age of 30. He planned to earn his second $1 million. Now he's working on it. But while he's earning his millions, his family life was falling apart. Well, he's sitting at his desk one day, and his wife called him and said, I cannot live like this any longer. I am going home to my parents. I don't know if I'll ever come back. Millard Fuller sat there at his desk and began to weep and said, what have I done? I've built up this empire of mine, and I've lost my family. So in time, he called his wife, begging her if they couldn't just sit and talk and put their lives back together. And finally, she agreed. So they sat down and they talked through what all the problems was, and he was never home, he was never there for her. You know, they had no family life. So he agreed that he would change his life, and in the process, he gave his life to Jesus Christ. And when he gave his life to Jesus Christ, he said, you know, I have got to change. All of these houses I own, and these boats I own, and this property I own, and this corporation I built is not bringing me happiness. So he sold it all. He got rid of all of it. And then he sat there and said, well, now what do I do? And so he met a man who was building houses for people who could not afford housing, and he hooked up with him. And him and his wife eventually formed what was known as Habitat for Humanity. And started building houses for other people. And at one time he said, my goal was to make $1 million. My goal now is to build 1 million houses. He changed his life. And in time, in 1992, Hurricane Andrew struck Florida. And when it struck Florida, it destroyed 117,000 homes. And after it destroyed homes and the people went out, it destroyed 117,000 homes. But there was one tract of homes, 27 homes, that were not touched. They stood there. And people were, what happened here? So when they wanted to interview Millard Fuller, and said, how come over here thousands of homes are destroyed, but these tract of homes, these 27 homes of yours, are still standing? How do you explain that? And Millard Fuller said, well, first of all, you've got to understand. Professionals build most houses, but we have volunteers and amateurs building our houses. A professional will drive a nail about every 17 inches. The people who build our houses, they might drive a nail every inch. He said, not even a hurricane can blow these houses over. And he says, plus, you need to understand, as a Christian organization, we build our houses on the rock. The reporter didn't have a clue what that meant. But when we build our lives on God, on the rock, what the Bible teaches, the things that come on this world, they don't throw us. They don't put fear in our lives because we know God told us this is what's going to be happening. You know, He's still on His throne. We still have assurance in Him. So we look at all this, the war and the pestilence and the fear and the disasters and violence and peace talks that aren't bringing peace, and famine and immorality and earthquakes and economic collapse, and the Bible being taught to people all around this world. We see all of that happening. It can bring fear to us. But God says when these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads because your redemption is drawing near.
Amen.
So God said, don't be afraid when you see these things. Lift up your head and be glad. Jesus Christ is coming. Amen. And it's just giving you hope that His coming is near at hand. And soon Jesus will return to this world, and all of these disasters and everything that plagues us will be brought to an end, and we'll get to live forever in the kingdom of God if we will build our lives on the rock of Jesus Christ. He will be there to get us through. So let us build our lives on Him in the assurance of His Word and what He teaches. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank You so much for what God has warned us about. We can look at this world and we're afraid. What's going to happen next? What's going to happen to us? But You're in control and You're on the throne. You knew it was going to happen. It hasn't caught You by surprise. So help us when we see these not to look at what's happening, but to look at who's in control. And keep our eyes on Jesus Christ and build our lives on the rock which will never move. And we thank You for His hope and for His assurance. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.